everyone, and welcome back to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. We've got a big old week developing here, and we decided, you know what? We're gonna bring on a special guest to walk us through the latest updates on who's got COVID, whose state's election results might possibly be overturned, who's talking with aliens. We've got none other than actor, writer, producer, commentator, director, comedian, Brian Unger, back on the Damage Report. Brian, how's it going?
America's favorite Jewish lawyer is here to help you through all of the mess. John, I couldn't be happier to see you guys again. It's been a while since little bug's been going around. I've been reading about. So
yeah, it's a big deal supposedly. And so you live sort of near LA, right? I don't know if it's technically LA, but near LA.
Adjacent. I'm in the part of LA where the real estate prices have always kind of been depressed, but now that people are freaked out about COVID, they really want to live where I live because there's so much space to roam. And because I live on a little ranch with horses and dogs and chickens and pigeons and all kinds of wildlife. So I'm not going to tell you the exact address, but I live in the I was really in the Angeles National Forest somewhere.
Yeah, no. I didn't want to ask. I was hoping you'd just offer your exact address so somebody could visit you during the show. Do you have a pig? That's my follow-up question for you.
I don't have a pig, and because of the rooting issue, they're adorable. I've always wanted one. I want goats too, but they crap everywhere. So I have to. I live in a fecal war zone, so I have to kind of be particular about what I'm cleaning, because I am cleaning and I'm covered in DNA all day long, every day of miscellaneous fecal matter from every species you can imagine. So I have to be very selective. And so I'm limiting myself to mostly raising chickens. I've really enjoyed that. I actually really like it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're learning a lot about you. The white shirt is a bold choice considering the fecal spray you so constantly have to dodge.
I so rarely, get out of pajamas, which everybody says. I never put on white because, I'm usually covered in I'm soiled somehow. And then just this idea of seeing you right here and knowing that the TYT audience is out there listening, and I feel so connected to civilization for the first time in 10 months. It's
awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, yeah. We're gonna update you on some of the news that's been going on over the past few months in what's left of America. So that should be fun. You know, it reminds me a little bit of you've done a lot of traveling for shows because you've done shows that have filmed all over the place. Like I have not done much of that, but when I did do my climate change docuseries, there were a few weeks that I spent out on a ship, and we didn't have. Like you had like 30 minutes of enough internet to send an email basically a day. And it was kind of nice to be like out of touch on the news. And this was during the first year of the Trump presidency. So I kept like hoping like when we dock again, it'll have all been resolved somehow. Didn't work out that way, unfortunately.
There is when you're out shooting for whatever show that I've been out on location, as they say, or roaming around the country, you are untethered from sort of time and space, and no one really knows where you are because you're moving around the country so much. And there is so much freedom in that. I'm finding this is kind of the flip side of that, where we're on our lockdown, as they say, and we're limiting any kind of contact with anybody who's from the outside. And so I feel untethered, but at home. And it's the oddest dynamic. Yeah. There's something also kind of nice about it. I'm not sure I want to go back to the regular world where I have to talk to people.
Yeah. I know everyone's sort of wondering to what extent we will be able to go back to all that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, we can't wait to have you back in. I'm wondering if we'll have will we be able to have like a big packed power panel within 1 year of the lockdown? It's sort of not looking that way, but
is it possible to get us together again?
Yeah, we will definitely see.
I remember
hazmat.
You start the show, but I remember you had me on the day after Trump's win. And I was sitting in this kind of adjacent little studio area, and Cenk was talking, and you were there, and everyone was there. And Cenk kind of did this thing where he like turned to me, but I was off camera, and he said, "Hey Brian, what do you think is going to happen now that Trump is president?" And I just remember naively saying, because he kind of put me on the spot, I said, "Well, I think no institution of government will ever be the same again." And that was the only thing I had. I just right off the and I just remember how I think about that often and how naive a statement it was, but at the same time, just how prescient and
not inaccurate.
And how couldn't have overstated that enough. Yeah. But anyways, enough about me.
Exactly. Let's turn now to the news. Everyone is watching, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, the members, Twitter, anything. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate you being here. Feel free to hit the like button and share the stream so that more people know we're active. And we feed the algorithm the things that it eats, likes, bells, whatever it is. And as you chat along with us and send us super chats and tweets and things like that, we will respond between these stories. But with that, there's a lot of news to get to. So let's jump right into the breaking news of the morning. When we found out just a day ago that Rudy Giuliani had apparently been diagnosed with COVID-19, the odds of Jenna Ellis, co-lawyer for the president, getting it seemed to have gone up. They've been near each other quite recently, unmasked with Rudy letting loose with flatulence nearby. And apparently the COVID chickens have come home to roost. President Trump's lawyer, Jenna Ellis, has informed associates she has coronavirus. Multiple sources tell Axios, stirring West Wing fears after she attended a senior staff Christmas party on Friday. Let's stop there for just 1 second. A senior staff Christmas party on Friday. They had a Christmas party for their staff. That's madness.
It's madness, and it's just, yeah. I was thinking about the I'm watching Heaven's Gate, and like we're basically just witnessing a cult here where even the threat of death will not deter someone from getting together in a room with another person. If you can't threaten someone with death and change their behavior, what's going to work? What would work?
Yeah, well, with these in general, I don't think anything. With these particular people, I think cutting off their grifty income might be more effective than the threat of death. But that's about it, really. Yeah,
that's it. Maybe the answer to basically deprogramming anyone in a cult is just cutting their meals.
Exactly. The issue with a cancel strategy in this case is that the only people who do believe that the threat of death should matter aren't the ones who have any sway over her, and we don't provide her income. So we're sort of defenseless or weaponless in this case. So but apparently,
let me ask you, who's handling all of the pressing, urgent legal proceedings now?
I mean, look, so Rudy Giuliani, I had heard, was supposed to be virtually involved in some sort of hearing as early as this morning. We don't know exactly what his condition is like. They say that he's feeling good and doesn't have a fever, but he also was almost immediately checked into a hospital. So that would then seem to throw it to Jenna Ellis, who supposedly has it. Although, let me run through a couple of these graphics because she does dispute it, which is important, and we should acknowledge that. Bear in mind that 3 senior White House officials informed Axios of her diagnosis, leading to concerns that that party we talked about could become a super spreader event. She was apparently there, a guest of Peter Navarro, wasn't wearing a mask because why would you? It's only the dark winter. We know that people brought their families there. Now, when Jonathan Swan asked Ellis about his reporting that she had tested positive and that some senior staff weren't happy about it, she replied that it was rude to text her after midnight, adding, "You must be more informed than me because I haven't heard it." So she denies that it's actually true. And by the way, I don't think that she was quarantining between when Rudy Giuliani was confirmed to have it and today. So will it actually change her behavior? That I don't know, if it turns out that she does.
You know, I support their First Amendment right to ignore life-threatening virus. I really do. I support their ability to say whatever crap they would like to say. I just want them to get to the back of the line for the vaccine. I just think that requires Pfizer or Moderna or whoever's controlling the lineup to move them to the rear of the line. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like the way I get turned away at Ralph's if I don't have my mask. I want them to sort of go to the back of the line or come back when they've basically gotten their attitudes right.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, I'm gonna say my gut tells me that there is going to be a direct correlation between how awful a person is and how quickly they get that vaccine. It's gonna be immediate.
I know it is a sad. They'll be first in line for that.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, look, we talked about yesterday on the show after it was revealed that Rudy Giuliani had it. Friend of the show, Emma Vigeland, she had tweeted about some of the sort of highlights of Rudy's last month or two, of the crazy things that he's done and been involved in. And Jenna Ellis attacked Emma, calling her evil for like wanting someone to get COVID, even though Emma didn't say anything like that. And the thing is, I don't want Jenna Ellis to have COVID. I don't even want Rudy Giuliani to have COVID. I've lost a family member to COVID. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies, and these are them. But at a certain point, like they're worried now that party is gonna be a super spreader event. They've already had 2 White House-based super spreader events, and they keep throwing parties. Mike Pompeo is gonna have a 900-person Christmas party. Like, at what point? Like, there's a big gap between wanting someone to have COVID and I guess saying, yeah, no, you did everything you could have possibly done to get it. Am I supposed to have empathy to spare at this point for these people?
Well, you're having a natural reaction as a human being with empathy, and I think that's terrific, and I commend you for it. I generally am. I think there need to be consequences and repercussions, and typically, whatever those are, we're never going to learn of them factually anyway. So if, like, for instance, Giuliani's hair dye is running everywhere in the hospital room, and he's really sick, and he's on death's door, we'll never know because they'll somehow camouflage just how sick they are. But they always minimize how sick they get, and they're also getting access, as we know, to these sort of latest therapies.
Yep.
And the vampire blood, whatever they're drinking over there, baby blood, whatever, pig blood. So I don't think we'd ever know, but I think it's a very human reaction to want consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want anyone to die, right? You don't want anyone to you just don't. But I don't know. Giuliani's ex-wife might feel differently. I don't know.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is sort of like that sort of primal impetus that leads to religion. It's this desire to live in a cause and effect, fact-based universe, that there will be patterns that we can discern, that behaviors will lead to predictable outcomes. We clearly don't live in that, whether, because they're all getting it and they're all basically surviving, except for Herman Cain. Whether it's the vampire blood or we've long talked about the monkey antibodies that they're clearly getting. Yeah. They always get something that perks them right back up and they're perfectly fine. But
yeah. And just even on the face of it, the cognitive dissonance that it requires to be someone who's in the faith and in the cult, where you basically, you see these people getting sick, you see them succumbing, and then yet you still believe that something is just like the flu. Or who gives a crap? I'm gonna go to this rally anyway and not wear a mask, or I'm gonna go to this event or a Christmas party. I mean, these are people. Here's the deal. What's that company that goes into buildings and sterilizes the whole place? You see those commercials? You know those guys?
Like for bugs?
Yeah, for all kinds of stuff. Like when you have a sewer or you have some kind of a mite infestation or something.
I assume that was the mob that did that.
Think about what they're gonna do to the White House. Think about it's literally like going into a frat house and having to clean up all the beer bottles. You're you're gonna have to sterilize. You're gonna have to strip the paint. That place is a COVID nesting zone. There are parties, there are bedrooms. I mean, if I were Joe Biden, would you sleep in the bedroom? Would you go into the bathroom and take a shower?
I would bleach it myself. I don't like cleaning bathrooms. I would make an exception. Maybe the bedroom, the bed though. No.
I wouldn't. No. I just wouldn't. After the inauguration, when he's supposed to go right back to the White House, I would do something like, "Thank you so much for the impressive house. It's really lovely, but my wife and I are gonna stay at the Hampton Inn just down the road."
Yeah, maybe make it the 4 seasons. Anyway,
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I would clean that out. Well, we've got other vaccine news coming up in just a second. I want to read a few super chats from our audience before we move on, though. With Wayne Sugihara saying, "Great team, Brian and John. Love your dialogue." Wasabi Dragon asked if Brian would be dragonized. So Brian is not, I don't think, familiar with our sort of audience. They have taken to call themselves the Dragon Squad, and so we will see if they give you a dragon moniker at some point.
First of all, I want to surprise you all by saying I am aware of that because I do watch, but I didn't know that I would be drafted into that world. So whatever's about to happen to me, I'm really excited.
Awesome. Jake sent in a super chat that just says bird law.
Yeah, I've been offering. I've tried. I've called Charlie on the show to ask him if we could. I've tried to form this triumvirate of legal expertise to loan to Trump, where Uncle Jack and Charlie and I, and we form this legal powerhouse where we go, because I think we would be more effective in overturning the vote in these swing states than his own attorneys. Look, they're sick. I mean, at least Uncle Jack wears rubber hands. He wouldn't be contracting the virus.
I would kill for that. Anyway, Zane says, "Holy crap, Brian Unger. I loved Brian on It's Always Sunny." That's awesome. Let's see. Fury Dragon says, "Am I the only dragon who notices a change in Trump's voice in the Georgia rally? Did he forget his retainer, dentures, drug nasal passages to prevent his signature sniffing? Can't put my finger on it." I actually didn't really pay that much attention to it. I didn't notice it. Did you notice that?
You're spot on, and without going too far down a rabbit hole, I would refer you to YouTube. Look up Martha Ray and Polydent, and look at the commercials that she did for this denture adhesive. And she sounds exactly like Trump. That Tone is she's basically, there's a new adhesive holding Trump's teeth to his noggin. And that's what's causing, I mean, he's been clearly getting dental work during the past month while he's golfing. He's going to the dentist and golfing.
Well, he's apparently taking public health seriously, sort of, as far as his mouth is concerned. And finally, Brian Fleming says, "Best Sunny character ever."
Thank you very much. It's why I'm on all the time. They love me so much. The 5 episodes basically just drown.
Is it really 5?
Series.
The funny that it feels like way more than 5. I try not to like fan out or anything, but obviously I am a very big fan of Always Sunny. I've watched every episode and everything, and it is one of the best characters on the show. Is it really only 5 episodes?
Really, the trick of being an effective guest star actor is that you come in. You just destroy and you leave, and people think basically you're a series regular and that you've been on for 14,000 of the 16,000 episodes, but you've really just been on 5 times.
That's amazing. Well, you left your mark. Over on Twitch, thank you to Obi-Wan Kenobi for gifting tier 1 subs. Really appreciate that, and to Short and Angry for resubscribing, saying getting this tech thing down. Well, thank you for joining us on this tech thing. We appreciate that. Dijati, thank you for gifting a sub as well. Zox Prime for resubscribing and saying thanks for all your excellent work, TYT. No, thank you, Zox Prime. We appreciate that. And hello to Toronto. Eddie O'Donnell on Twitch says, "Hello, Mr. Unger. My introduction to you was your documentaries from the History Channel. It's nice to see you here as well."
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you. We're streaming on Amazon all through December, and I'm looking forward to not receiving a penny of the residuals from it.
That's awesome. So you're gonna have the Dave Chappelle issue. You should try to have them take it down.
Listen, I empathized with Dave Chappelle's testimonial there, and what was it called, Unforgiven? And the difference between Dave Chappelle and me, obviously, he has the ability to say, "Hey, could you pull those episodes? It makes me feel bad."
Yeah. Lori says, "I've missed Brian Unger very much, big time." And a few people are throwing out. Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
I miss you too.
Thank you. Some people are throwing out possible names, including Cowboy Dragon and Birdlaw Dragon. Anyway, with that, why don't we jump back into the news? Because this is sort of we're having fun and everything, but this is sort of a big one. And this news really is the life and death story for countless thousands of people. So I'm gonna try to take it serious and let's launch into this. Massive breaking news yesterday, late last night actually, from the New York Times, having to do with the, before the vaccines came out, the deals that were set up by the Trump administration with a variety of different companies to purchase those. And apparently one of them with Pfizer, a vaccine that we now know is apparently quite effective, could have been a much bigger deal, and they passed on it. Before Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine was proved highly successful, this just last month, the company offered the Trump administration the chance to lock in supplies beyond the 100 million doses the pharmaceutical maker agreed to sell the government as part of a 1.95 billion deal months ago. The vaccine being produced by Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech is a 2-dose treatment, meaning that those 100 million doses are enough for 50 million Americans, not 100 million Americans. But the administration, according to people familiar with the talks, never made the deal, a choice that now raises questions about whether the United States allowed other countries to take its place in line. They had the option to purchase 100 million to 500 million additional doses. And they were told at the time that if they don't lock that in, the demand, from all of the rest of humanity was going to be such that they might have to wait quite a while. Those 500 million additional doses that we could have gotten for, I'm gonna spitball the math and say less than $10 billion, could have inoculated basically everyone in America effectively, and they chose not to. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna get vaccines, but Brian, that is a very weird choice to make in the run up to an election just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, at least it's consistent with the incompetence that we've witnessed. I just think we're that much closer to a zombie apocalypse where basically everyone's outside CVS or some grocery store where they get their flu shots, expecting the coronavirus vaccine, screaming masses. If we don't get this thing distributed in an efficient way, I don't know what the consequences were. I mean, there was a part of me today that felt this kind of like disappointment when I saw, and this is totally unjustified, but seeing these 2 British senior citizens get the vaccine shots today. The first 2 patients outside of clinical trials to receive that. I just thought, wow, we really have slipped, haven't we? Like I always come back to the whole man on the moon thing. Like we were able to do that, but we cannot figure out a way to stem this spread. And yeah. So yeah, America is we're number 4, and we're number 1 in cases, but we're number 4 in trying to eradicate this thing. But yeah, I mean, what do you think that is? What is the rationale for saying, wait, you have the cure? You know what? Just give me a couple. Leave the rest. Leave the rest in the trunk. Yeah. We'll pick it up later. Yeah.
I can only speculate, and look, I want to apologize to the audience. I'm laughing. It's my defense mechanism. When things are so horrific, so dark, I laugh. But really, like, if this means that your average person on average has to wait 1 month or 2 months, to get the vaccine, because we're apparently like not expected to have vaccinated most of America until the end of next summer. Like, what are we hoping, that only kills 10,000 more people, that doesn't lead to 100,000 more deaths? It's definitely going to kill a lot of people. The question really is, does it kill an Afghanistan of America's, or a Vietnam of America's, or a Civil War of America's? Like, that's really the question at this point. Why they did this, I don't know. Look, they have deals with other companies, and there are other sets of 100 million doses. But this one was considered one of the most likely to work. It had been being worked on for a very long time. When you have the option to purchase more, it either signals a lack of seriousness in general about the disease and the need to fight it, or a lack of, just a lack of pragmatism in terms of politics. Because if this news had come out before the election, it would have been even worse for him. I can't think of any plausible, rational explanation for it. I just can't.
I know I play a lawyer on TV, but I also play a doctor on Yellowstone. So I'm totally qualified to talk about these things. Probably more so than that guy who was advising Trump. But I do think that since they have unlocked the hardest, most difficult part of the vaccine, this messenger RNA kind of delivery system of the vaccine, it opens the door to many companies coming out with many vaccines. I'm just hoping by like January, February, there are 4 or 5 companies that can flood the zone with this thing, and it can be as easy as going to Rite Aid or CVS for people. And thankfully, we're not just depending on one vaccine from one company. And listen, we've gotten through this on our own from the very beginning. We've never depended on this federal government to deliver anything that resembles an effective, efficient sort of address of this crisis. And so we're all on our own. And the only hope is that these pharmaceutical companies that love money more than anything else, there'll be like 5 or 6 of them, and we can get this vaccine, I don't know, down the street. That's my hope,
Yeah, and we have 2, Pfizer and Moderna, that had very good results. Just this morning, breaking news: AstraZeneca says that theirs is about 70% effective. I'm not a doctor even on Yellowstone, so I don't know exactly how much worse. I mean, I know it's 20% worse, but sure. I am now. The thing is, when you have like Pfizer 95, Moderna 90, AstraZeneca 70, as a regular person, the only takeaway I have from that is a fear that I'm gonna get stuck with the AstraZeneca one. I know it. I'm gonna have to wait 6 months, and it's gonna be AstraZeneca, and I'm gonna have to take it, because how do you not take it? But anyway,
you don't want to get stuck with the cheap stuff. You really want to get, the high dollar vaccine. You want to get that 94% one. And I agree. So I don't know, take 2 vaccines of the 70% efficacy and you'll have 140% efficacy.
That's what you get from a TV doctor.
That's correct.
Now this big New York Times revelation that the Trump administration passed on a possible chance to lock in far more doses of the Pfizer vaccine is being disputed by Kayleigh McEnany, who notably swore she would never lie to us. Here she is.
Was there a negotiation at all, or are you guys denying the numbers of doses that were under negotiation?
According to the people involved in the negotiation, it just simply was not true. This president contracted for doses of this vaccine from many different companies, 100 million doses, and those involved in the negotiation say it's just simply not true.
So you're in a position now of having several other companies that potentially could bring vaccines. Is that part of the reason why the administration simply passed, if they did?
No, the administration didn't pass. We contracted with many other companies. There are 6 vaccines in phase 3 clinical trial with almost all of them. In fact, I believe it was all 6, but I can check on that for you. We contracted for 100 million doses. It's something novel, something Obama-Biden failed to do with the swine flu. It's never been done, and that's credit to having a businessman in the White House. Thank you, Joe.
Really quick question, sorry.
You show a lot of confidence in your argument when you end it and then immediately bolt away. So you seem to have a reaction to the swine flu thing.
You're talking about your prowess and your competence at sort of coming up with this vaccine, and then she went to the Christmas party right after that. Like you really do have to be in 2 places mentally at the same time to make that happen, where you just talk about how expert you are, and then you go and ignore all the science. So why would we trust anything they say that comes out of them? I trust nothing. And it is, and on a serious note, John, as you alluded to, I talked to my mom this morning. She's 86. She's making Christmas cookies in the kitchen that I won't eat this year, and I haven't seen her in a year, and I worry about her. But my brothers and I have constructed a web of support network around her to make sure they're checking on her each day. And here's my thing. This morning I thought about that, and I go, I hope she makes it to the vaccine. I hope, and I hope that for everyone. I hope that the people don't get sick a week before the vaccine comes out at Rite Aid. You know what I'm saying? That's the
people will.
Yeah, and they're going to die. People will die, and that's why this is so catastrophic. I just hope we make it to the finish line.
Yeah. It was probably a couple months ago. No. But I compared it to, back when like the end of World War II was formally signed, and how it takes days to get out in those days to all of the soldiers. And so for days, people are still fighting and dying in a war that's over. And so that's why to see people going to Thanksgiving and planning these big Christmases, it's like the only question now is how many people are going to die before nobody needs to die anymore. You're 100% right, and it's gonna be a lot, and people are gonna get sick the day before, the week before, the month before. As to Kayleigh McEnany's statement, that was technically a denial. She said it wasn't true, but it wasn't much of a denial. I mean, she said there's one thing was objectively untrue. She said that people involved in the negotiation said that it's false. Okay, maybe there are people who said it's false, but the New York Times also has people who say it's true. So I'm gonna call that a wash, and I'm gonna lean towards the New York Times there. Other than that, she didn't provide any new information that demonstrated that the reporting was false. She said, no, we didn't pass. We contracted with 6 different companies for 100 million. Okay, that doesn't say that you didn't pass. That says that you did deals with other companies. We're saying Pfizer. Did you get a chance to purchase more doses from Pfizer and you passed on it? You kept saying that that's not true, but then you talked about things that had nothing to do with that. That implies to me, factoring in the context of you being a massive liar, that you probably did pass. And look, I feel my heart could go out to Kayleigh McEnany. Maybe if it was up to her, they wouldn't have. Maybe she, like me and Brian, don't understand why they did, but it's your job to defend that, and you're running. You are literally retreating from those questions, but it's not like they're gonna go away. You're gonna have to answer at some point.
Yeah, and then perhaps give context. I mean, perhaps it is more appropriate to say, yes, we did order this many, but factoring in the other companies, we will have this many doses. And look, I like, I like this general with the US Army who's basically saying, I got this. I trust that guy. I don't know why, I just do. I feel like that guy is not. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No.
I'm sure your audience does, and I'm sure I'll be attacked for basically cozying up to the military. But I so much so. But this guy's kind of in charge of the distribution. And my brother was in the Army, a retired colonel, and he called me up and he says, Brian, don't worry, this guy's got it. I know the kind of guy he is, and there was something about his take command attitude and leadership that he was exerting that kind of gave me, or asserting, that made me feel like he was gonna. So I've been listening to that guy, not Ms. Kayleigh McEnany.
Yeah, probably a good call. Regardless of what person you insert into that guy, probably a better idea to listen to that guy than Kayleigh. But definitely after the show, let me know who you're talking about.
I will.
With that, why don't we switch it up? Talk about something very different. The Trump challenges to election results in multiple battleground states continue, and his clashes with Republican leadership in those states continues as well. In today's pre-show, I talked about the pressure he was putting on Pennsylvania Republicans, and they're apparently standing up to that at least a little bit. But it's even worse in Georgia, with Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp again telling lawmakers that he won't call a special session of the legislature to overturn Georgia's election results and appoint 16 presidential electors who would support Trump instead of Biden, the guy who won the election. Specifically, he put out a statement with Republican Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, both Republicans, saying any attempt by the legislature to retroactively change that process for the November 3rd election would be unconstitutional and immediately enjoined by the courts, resulting in a long legal dispute and no short-term resolution. Well, this comes just a couple of days after Trump and Kemp spoke by phone, hours before Trump's rally in Georgia on Saturday. The president asked Kemp to order the legislative session, and the governor refused. According to a tweet from the governor, Trump also asked him to order an audit of absentee ballots from the presidential race in the state. Kemp has said he can't do that because he has no authority to interfere in the electoral process on Trump's behalf. In Trump's defense, Kemp has seemingly had a very high opinion of his ability to interfere in election results in the past. So I can understand Trump's frustration in this case, the fact that he's not doing it. But Trump is attacking him, tweeting that he's a rhino, saying he'll be solely responsible for the potential loss of our 2 great senators from Georgia if he doesn't overturn the election that already happened. I don't really understand that. But Brian, it is interesting and novel to see Trump going at it with a governor who's not a Democrat for once, that he's really sticking it to this Republican.
Hold on a second, let me put back my lawyer You know, as a lawyer on a popular television show, on a very credible legal broadcast on the FX television network, I ask you this: when speaking of unconstitutional, I just wonder, like, when does it become a crime for someone to keep picking up the phone and applying this pressure, trying to overturn a democracy? When does that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what legal body or what law enforcement body would enforce anything like that, since they're all so like corrupt at this point. But like, I'm just wondering, like, how many states can you call and pressure before someone says that's illegal? I mean, I went to a very, very, very credible legal institution. I got my diploma from the Hollywood School of Acting Legal College, and I can smell a crime when I smell it.
I remember there was talk after, like, I believe it was within a week of the election, when Senator Lindsey Graham called up, I think it was Raffensperger in Georgia, and told him to like reject a bunch of votes. And people were like, hey, like, you can't tell someone to commit election fraud. That's itself a crime. And then, you know, America did what America does, which is that's a powerful person. And there was a lot of other news, so we all forgot about it, including me until this moment. And there were no consequences. Trump is gonna be fine. He can do, like, I love that, like, the only defense really against all of what Trump is doing is, it probably won't work. The coup probably won't. We'll probably still have democracy in a month. And everybody's like perfectly content to slide on that. Like, it probably won't work here.
Yes,
that seems dangerous.
And the silence among, you know, Republicans is obviously something media likes to jump on and harp on and talk about all the time. But I want to I look no further than Hollywood. When you're no longer in the chair and you don't have the big job, once you leave the building, nobody cares. Nobody gives a crap that you were there, because there's your mind moves on to the next thing anyway. So his influence over the party is overstated. That's my opinion. And then secondly, there's always someone there to take your place. There's always someone who wanted the job and wants it so badly that they essentially kind of erase you from the, you know, the popular lexicon. So I just wish that folks would understand that his you know, this whole effect he will have on the Republican Party and on America's congress. No, you kind of slip away. You really do. Johnny Carson went and played tennis in Malibu. Seinfeld even became more of an emeritus kind of like comedian, and once he was off the show, it's not like they affect the everyday and drive the everyday pop culture. And I think politics is the same way. Once you're gone, you're gone. So everybody just you know, do your own thing. Don't worry about this guy. Once he's gone, he's gone. So stand up, have a conscience. That's a bold prediction, actually. And this is just a year from now, you and I will share this moment, reshare it, and you'll say, Brian,
that he'll be gone.
You are so wrong.
We'll see. You know, to the director, could you get the second video ready? Because I think it actually ties into this. Like, I think the audience right now is processing your prediction, and again, it is bold. No, not a lot of people are predicting that in a year Trump isn't going to be a significant factor in the Republican Party. And my gut like reaction would be, well, but Trump is doing all of this planning, like him and his kids, they're getting ready. They're going to take over the RNC here, and then he's going to be in charge of the NRA, and they're going to be spooling up for a presidential run. They're ready. They're not going to be irrelevant because they're ready. But the thing is, apparently behind the scenes, Trump is not necessarily in this like house of cards planning the next 7 steps sort of phase. At least as a result, or I'm saying this as a result of this bit of insider information about what he's actually focused on a day-to-day basis today.
This person said the president basically has, 75 versions of the exact same conversation every single day with whoever walks in to the Oval Office. You cannot get him to focus on the topic at hand. And, the only variation is whatever sort of new conspiracy theory he has seen on Newsmax or OAN or has been brought to him, by an ally who believes in this stuff or at least wants to encourage the president. And that's where he is right now. So he is sort of stuck somewhere in stages of grief and acceptance purgatory and not really moving on.
Like, I know for some of the audience, they're like, I don't care what Trump is thinking, and I get that. I do get that. But like, I've been really wondering, does he actually think he has a chance, or is he just doing this as a facade while he, does his Machiavellian stuff behind the scenes? That would seem to indicate, no, he really thinks he's still gonna be president or has a good chance. He really, like someone described him, I think it was Mary Trump, described him as the only person who can successfully gaslight himself. And maybe he has, maybe this is evidence of that.
We will never hear from him again as a candidate. He will fade away. He is constructing this sort of legacy of his right now where he will always be the wronged victim. He will live out the rest of his days as a victim. And he will never, ever subject himself to the risk of losing again. He will never do that. I hope he does run again, because it would just be like a defeat even double the size that it is now. The threat of him coming back is way worse than the one that we're enduring now. His presence now is like Trump light. Can you imagine the guy in 4 years occupying the White House? I mean, nothing would rally the base more. And anyone. I mean, so he will fade away. He will spit into a bucket on a front porch in Mar-a-Lago. And he will bitch and moan about, and to anyone who will listen. And and his rocking chair will just sort of go and go and go to the end of his days. But he can go on OAN and all of these other French places, but even the media machine, it's just all they want is money too. And at some point, they want to go on to the next superstar, whoever that's going to be. So yeah. My prediction is the guy just fades away, kind of like, we'll always, like whatever happened to that guy? Because that's what people say about me. So that's what I believe.
You want that for your own worst enemy. Okay, well, someone in the audience, remind us in 1 year, please. Whatever the date is, just next year, we'll find out.
Okay.
With that, let's talk about something very, very different and very local to both Brian and myself. LA has got a new DA, and George Gascon is not waiting a long time to put into effect the sort of agenda he had been campaigning on. On just his first day leading the country's largest district attorney's office, top prosecutor in LA County announced a series of sweeping criminal justice reforms aimed at permanently changing the course of California's criminal justice system. Gascon said, "I recognize for many this is a new path. Whether you are a protester, a police officer, or a prosecutor, I ask you to walk with me. I ask you to join me on this journey. We can break the multi-generational cycles of violence, trauma, and arrest and recidivism that has led America to incarcerate more people than any other nation." Now, I can't speak necessarily for the protesters or the prosecutors, but I'm going to guess that many of the police officers, or at least the representation, are not going to be walking with him. But here are a few of the changes, and then we'll have a little discussion. He tweeted a number of them. Enhancements, a legacy of the tough on crime era, are a principal driver of excessive sentences and mass incarceration. California enacted over 100 enhancements, which are outdated, incoherent, and applied unfairly. To end mass incarceration in LA, we will cease filing all enhancements. He talks about the effect that the 3 strikes law had on the prison population in California, and says that 3 strikes ends in my office beginning today. He pledged to reopen 4 fatal officer-involved shootings, saying my office will now convene a use of force review board to review fatal use of force cases dating back to at least 2012. We must hold police accountable to restore trust in law enforcement. He says that cash bail is going to be ended completely by January 1st, and also says that the death penalty does not make us safer. It's racist, morally untenable, irreversible, and expensive. And today it's off the table. So I would say that's a lot for one day. That's a busy first day. I don't know how you follow that up on the second day, but he is hitting a bunch of different areas. These are all things that he campaigned on.
Yeah, and won. It is kind of it's certainly a positive move for progressives. I mean, in terms of reform. And listen, this is another one of those things where you really can't. I have a friend of mine is in the LAPD, and there's no middle ground. We never, ever find any middle ground in our discussions about reform. And so I don't really have an answer. We just try to maintain a friendship and outside of talk of criminal reform. But I like data, and I think like these stats don't lie. And you also have the softer data, which is what this this generational cycle that you do have to break. So listen, let's give this guy a shot and see what happens. I hope there's
Yeah, look, I don't have close relationships with many cops, but I'm seeing the response to Gascon with the police union. Let's see what's their particular quote. Los Angeles Police Union called the reforms disturbing and potentially disastrous, saying Gascon is exploring every avenue possible to release from jail those responsible for recent rise in violent crime. And so the thing is, at least with the reforms that he's talked about so far, in terms of direct reform to the day-to-day job of a police officer, I mean, the closest thing is investigating past fatal officer-involved shootings. The rest of it is really more about mass incarceration and the way that people are treated once they are involved in that system. It's not really about cops can't do this, they're gonna be reviewed if they do this, strap a body cam onto that. It's not really those sorts of reforms just yet. And so it's interesting that the response is so negative. I understand that they're worried about a slippery slope, they're worried about what happens next or whatever, but I do agree, it really does feel like this is one of those areas, like with like gun control, where literally nothing can be proposed from the point of view of the entrenched interests. Nothing will be accepted because it's always considered the first step towards, mass roundups of guns or badges, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we're leading the nation in mass incarceration, we've got to ask ourselves why is that? And if the population is exponentially growing the way it, my dogs, sorry, my attack dogs, they're no, I mean, we have to ask ourselves why. But yeah, why is that growing exponentially? What we have to have a long-term policy fix here, guys. So I guess we will see. I don't know.
Yeah, we will see. I'm gonna read just one more comment from Gascon, perhaps like an image of an idea of what's to come, saying, for those of you who at home may be skeptical, I want to ask you to take a moment, close your eyes, and imagine your ideal safe neighborhood. I imagine most of you will imagine a neighborhood with parks, playgrounds, and manicured lawns, with kids playing and after-school programs flourishing. I don't imagine most of you are imagining a neighborhood with a police officer on every corner. We know what safety looks like, but we don't offer it to every community equally. And by the way, I would definitely advise everyone, whether you go to, there's good write-ups on LA Times, NBC News, Common Dreams, and all of that about things he's doing. He's also talking about making sure that we have the right funding to treat people with mental health difficulties appropriately, rather than just funneling it again into the same already overcrowded system. He wants to review cases where people were given really lengthy prison terms and are not considered to be threats of future criminality or violence or anything like that. People who are much older, non-violent crimes. Like this is, so there's some specific reforms here, but there's also a philosophical change to a little bit more understanding of the proper use for long-term incarceration, and not simply like California has for the last 30 years, considered a solution to every societal ill.
Yeah, it sounds very pragmatic, and I don't know if I would even call it progressive. It just sounds like it's treating very logically issues from a guy who really has studied them. He sounds expert, and
yeah,
wow, what a refreshing thing that is too, to hear from someone who is an expert.
Yeah, we could use that for a bit. Okay, few more comments from the audience before we move on. Let's see. Gabby says, and I think this was perhaps the person you were talking about, General Milley.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Gabby, for filling us in there.
Thank you,
General Milley. Let's see. Ken Simmerl asks, do you think Danny DeVito will be playing Rudy in the bound to be a Netflix film 2020 The Awakening? I think he could play Rudy Giuliani. That might not be bad, actually. I hadn't thought of that.
I do too. I mean, if they just kind of shoot him from the waist up, I think that it could totally work.
Oh, very, very sad super chat here from Brian Stanley Media, who says, I lost my granny on Friday after a battle with dementia. She's the only grandparent I've had. Can the Dragon Squad join in celebrating her life at 11:11 p.m. tonight? Admire the moon's beauty. It's very sad, Brian. Very sorry to hear about that.
Very, very sorry.
Terrible loss. Okay, over on Twitch, Lesmom PDX resubscribed and says, hello, Dragons. Lesmom, thank you. Dr. Poopsicles resubscribed and says, hello, people. How is everyone doing today?
I know him. He works down the hall from me. I on Yellowstone.
That's good.
Some of the other cowboys. Dr.
Oh
Poopsicles.
my God.
Proctology.
Oh, really? I would not have.
Colonoscopies on the regular. Terrific.
Wouldn't have guessed. Let's see. Zane says, saw the Emma story on Majority Report, Johnny Pie. That's interesting. I didn't know that they talked about it there, although it makes sense considering Jenna Ellis's comment. Let's see. Julia Wallace, thank you for your super chat. Darcel as well, thank you for that. Let's see. Zane says Brian is Discovery Dragon. That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Do people know Brian has done many shows? Like he has worked the Daily Show back in the days, hosted multiple shows.
Oh, I once, speaking of It's Always Sunny, I was sitting down with Charlie and Rob McElhaney, and I'm not just name dropping, but Charlie looked at me and he's like, yeah, that's funny, you Unger. How come you're not more successful than you are? Which I had no response to that because I've been passed around Hollywood more than, like a truck stop prostitute at the Triple T. I mean, so I'm proud of my legacy that I have. Yeah, if you're referring to my great work on Discovery Channel, thank you so much.
I think so.
I made aluminum foil. It was really exciting.
Nice. British 32 gives us an update. Yesterday, there was an offer from British 32 to possibly get me a year all-you-can-drink Monster sponsorship. And British says, update for you about the Monster drink. I got you added to the possible 500 can giveaway, so fingers crossed you get it. Thank you. I'm really wondering though, is British 32 a nice person who is providing something for me that I do enjoy, or is this the only acceptable way to try to assassinate a YouTuber by giving me 500 monsters?
Oh, this person is trying to kill you.
I think this person wants blood.
What color is that drink? Is it fluorescent?
It's a lot of colors, but none of them found in nature. I think
no, everything resembles antifreeze, that coolant you pour into your car. It's exactly. It glows. It's so scary.
It is. Although I do like it.
So and finally, Tom, I tell you to stay away from
I should. I do want a second opinion, Dr. Poopsicles. What do you think about a daily monster habit? Anyway, Tom Twiddell says, great to see Brian. I loved how the states got their shapes and reference it often.
Thank you.
That's very nice of him.
We tried to make more of them, but we were denied.
Yeah. I know you probably couldn't, and just speaking of future roles, and I don't know what's shooting or what's gonna be shooting in the near term, and I know you probably can't confirm or die anyway, but I really did enjoy the first season of Mythic Quest. I would love to see you on Mythic Quest. I hope that happens.
Hey, McElhaney, I hope you are listening.
It was very funny. Can't wait for the second season of that.
Cool.
Okay, with that, let's jump into other news. News not just of worldly import, but perhaps galactic importance as well. Oh my God, that B-roll, whoa. What's going on in this show? We used to be a serious news show. Serious news for you. A former Israeli space security chief, retired Israeli general and current professor Chaim Eshed, has sent eyebrows shooting heavenward by saying that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. Chaim said, the unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. This is according to an interview in Hebrew that ran on Friday and gained traction after parts were published in English by the Jerusalem Post on Tuesday. Question for Chaim, if they said they didn't want you to tell us, seems like sort of a risk to reveal it now, buddy. We've got more, but Brian, what do you think?
Can you please put the graphic back up? I thought that was a very, very accurate depiction of the White House Christmas party.
Can we see the B-roll, everybody?
Back up. There it is. Hey, everybody.
No, Brian.
Merry Christmas from the White House. Anyway,
okay. It's accurate insofar as only one person is wearing a mask, but they are all social distancing, so I'm not sure that's totally accurate.
That is true. Listen, I'm watching Heaven's Gate: Cult of Cults on HBO right now, and this belief that aliens are coming and they're taking us to the next level or wherever they're going to take us is so widely held. It's beyond mocking at this point. So. My only hope for the entire UFO industry, which is its own industrial complex, is that I hope Trump got the documents about Area 51 and the alien they're keeping alive there, and I hope he busts that thing wide open. If there's one thing I hope he does, it's that, because you know that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get into the vaults at Area 51.
It's funny because there is a little bit about Trump in this in just a moment. I feel like the fact that we've gotten this far into Trump's term, and Trump is a guy who casually declassifies stuff in random conversations, and a guy who really likes attention. I feel like it's harder to sustain the belief that anything cool or interesting that the government's been hiding actually exists, because I feel like he would have revealed it. I mean, he's not a very curious person.
He would, and
so
there was
doesn't that depress you?
There was a piece in the Times yesterday or the day before, like whatever happened to him exposing the whole JFK assassination. What he said he was going to go into the file cabinets and pull those files and take a look at them. And so none of that stuff, we've been deprived of the answers to all of the conspiracy theories of our time, but yet somehow History Channel and Discovery Channel still get to make TV shows about it. So this should put an end to everything, because you're right. He would have told those truths. He would have told them all, and they're not there.
And they're not there. And the thing is, we know something's there. So here is the most frustrating thing. If you are either a conspiracy theorist or a rational person, both groups should be frustrated by this. Donald Trump is a guy that is super interested in conspiracy theories. He watches Newsmax and OAN every day. He tweets everything he hears. And whether there are aliens or not, there's definitely cool hidden stuff. He could be finding out the answers to conspiracy theories. Instead, he's only interested in the headlines about them. What a stupid, incurious idiot. Like, you could get real information about Project Northwood, MK Ultra, and whatever.
Yes, think about it. He would be the man who says, Bigfoot is real. Here, we've had one in captivity all this time. He could turn his conspiratorial brain into this heroic kind of sort of the answer man. And he's ignored all of that. And so, listen, the guy's ignored greatness at every opportunity. He's never, ever, ever stood up to greatness when it knocks on the door. So why should we count on him to expose aliens? We all know they're there.
We do. And look, honestly, like I've said many times on the show, I definitely believe that there are aliens. I just find it hard to believe that they've actually been here, or that they would exist.
Area 51. I actually went there. Yeah, and I was chased away by armed guards when we were shooting How the States Got Their Shapes. And so I knew we were getting either close to aliens or just encroaching on a military complex.
It's hard to say. And then it's also hard to say how to respond to this news, because this person's former Israeli space security chief, a general, a professor, apparently a respected professional. But when you're saying that, for instance, we have an underground base in the depths of Mars where American astronauts and alien representatives work together. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that. He must have known that when he said it.
As a Jewish lawyer, I'm very disappointed in this hokey thing. But there's a reason Israel doesn't have a giant space program.
Why is that?
I don't know.
He probably does, though.
Yes, he does.
He probably does.
But
by the way,
he's pretty sure that it exists, and yeah.
Well, interestingly, he didn't say that there were Israeli astronauts working with these people. He did put it all in the US. And he said, by the way, that President Donald Trump is aware of the extraterrestrials' existence and had been on the verge of revealing information, but was asked not to in order to prevent mass hysteria. Yeah, he wouldn't want to cause a panic or anything.
Well, he also doesn't want that giant ass of his probed by the beings, by the aliens.
I guess I should be proud that it took us that long to get.
The aliens said,
but it was coming.
Even the aliens said, we're not probing that guy.
Exactly, not interested. Stop offering.
Yeah.
Anyway,
put the diaper back on, and let's just call it a day. We're going back to Neptune or wherever the hell we came from.
Exactly. Anyway, we've got one other little quick bit of news, just a fun little moment. So let's do that with the little time we have left. President Donald Trump is still technically president, and he can still technically give out the Medal of Freedom, which he did yesterday afternoon to Dan Gable, a legendary wrestler and a teacher of wrestling. But not long after giving him the medal, people started asking questions, and it very quickly got to be a bit too much for President Trump, who's not interested in any of this accountability or media or press or any of that. So this happened.
Mr. President, one more question about the inauguration. Thank you very much.
Anything on Bill Barr, sir?
Congratulations, sir. He's gone.
He's gone. He just walked out. He just left. He left an old man just standing there. He's not in charge. That's the Oval Office. You need to be in there.
Do you know how long it took to get those little kids in the background there dressed in those clothes and their hair combed for this little publicity stunt event? It was like such a big deal, and the guy comes in, and that I was thinking from their perspective, they'll go, I vaguely remember he came into the room and he did something to my grandfather. He put something around his head, and then he went, I'm out.
Bye-bye.
Hey, see you later. And my grandfather just stood there without any lines. Look at him.
Yeah, and look, I don't know Dan Gable. I don't know what his politics are. It's possible. I don't know which is worse, if he's a fan of Trump and Trump walked out on his thing, or if he's not a fan of Trump, but he really does want to be acknowledged for a lifetime of work. So he was willing to go, and then the dude just pieced out in the middle of it. I don't know.
It is really, you're complaining that this show's not serious enough today. And I would just say you keep serving up some really wonderful comedic moments. And that is a man who is not a stage performer, this man. He is not trained in the art of now improving to the press and saying something. So he does what anybody would do. He puts his hands up and he goes, he's gone. Trump,
yeah, exactly.
He's gone, which is what we're all gonna do in January. When the moment comes, we're all just gonna go, he's gone.
He's gone, yeah.
And that's gonna be
really fast. I certainly hope so. But really fast, I want to show you that everybody watching this is probably pretty confident that Donald Trump was the most childish person in the room, and it's not for lack of competition. If we could bring up this photo from the event, there was a bit of a hissy fit. Someone landed on the floor, but still, that kid has a shred more quiet dignity than the president. That
is the photo that might just define, that child represents America.
I'm done.
That's the country right there, folks. Just on the floor, on their back. Just there will be. What a contrast to that picture of little John Kennedy Jr. popping his head out of the Resolute desk. And you put this one side by side of a kid just passed out on the Oval Office carpet. Like, we just can't take it anymore.
No, and I love Trump's little desk, sized for that kid, oddly enough. Anyway, Brian Unger, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out. I hope the pandemic's not treating you too bad. 2020 is not treating you too bad. Is there anything coming up in the near future that people can look forward to, or is 2020 being 2020?
I have absolutely nothing to say to look forward to other than all of us sort of getting a vaccine, climbing out of this madness, soldiering on, and never letting the last 4 years happen to us again.
I hope so. Let's look forward to that. Brian, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
And for those of you at home, let me read just a few more of your comments. Let's see. Pix sent in a super chat saying, "Where is Emma's jersey?" Oh, so Pix. So I had put up Emma's jersey here for just a few days, sort of like to show it off to people. But like I said, it's been retired to the studio, so it is in the studio and it will remain here in perpetuity. Danny Jones says, "Lol, Jenna Ellis got it from Rudy's booty, Rona Tootie." Oh my God. But she probably did get it from Rudy Giuliani, like, and she was all mad at Emma. Be mad at Rudy, man. Be mad at yourself. You've known for months and months how dangerous it is to sit that close to this old, irresponsible man with no mask. I hope that she gets better and that she has, a really mild asymptomatic case and everything, but it's not like you didn't know, and you've been so protected. You can get tests anytime you want. Everyone around you can be tested if they want. Okay. Goblin Dragon says, "Finding out about the actual conspiracies requires Trump to read, and that's not going to happen." Probably true. Let's see. Aiden says, "As someone else who enjoys Monster, here's hoping this 5 goes into the studio overcaffeination fund. Love from Overcaffeinated Dragon Alaska." Thank you, Aiden. I do appreciate that. Fury Dragon says, "Who knew that COVID and a staff Christmas party would lead to staff infection? So many surprises." Dun dun dun. Not bad. Let's see. Okay. Andy from Ohio over on Twitch says he's not going to tell us about aliens, but then again, why would he create Space Force? That's true. He learned something. Dr. Poopsicle says, "Wasn't it rumored that Trump wanted a Space Force because he's a fan of Star Wars?" I hope not. It's a petty, stupid little thing. I don't want him to be a fan of anything I'm a fan of. I just prefer that, like the way he hates dogs. I prefer that he hates dogs. I don't want him to enjoy the thing that gives me life. Anyway, thank you everybody for your super chats. Those who commented along on YouTube or Twitch and all of that, really do appreciate it. By the way, we do have just a couple of weeks remaining in the TYT fundraising drive that we've been doing throughout the year to keep ourselves going. If you can give anything, and I understand it's a very hard year, but if you can give even just a couple of dollars, you can go to tyt.com/go and help to keep us stable and independent. Any help would be much appreciated. Thank you for watching the show. Tomorrow, JR Jackson will be joining me. So definitely look forward to that. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.